Hello and welcome. If you're new to my channel, my name is Christina, and I'm super excited to share 5 DIY projects in this video with you today, and part 2 of my living room makeover. There's going to be lots of ground to cover, so let's get into project 1. I have had this cabinet for quite some time, and as you can see up close and personal, it's got quite the coats of latex paint on it. I think it's time to give this piece a completely new makeover, and first thing I'm going to do is obviously take this paint off and then decide what I want to do next. Using my orbital sander and 60 grit sandpaper, if I had known then what I know now, I would even recommend 40 grit sandpaper. Not only does the wood have all this latex paint, there's actually 2 coats of it, as well as the wood is in really rough condition, so it's going to need a lot of sanding. This is a very typical primitive cabinet that people would use in kitchens just to store extra pieces and dishes and etc. that they'd have. So it's certainly not a high craftsmanship piece, but I do love the primitive character and its simplicity. But I think with a little love to the wood, we could really shine this up and make it actually really nice. This cabinet actually has 2 parts to it, and I'm working on the bottom. I am hoping I could get to the top, but if I can't, I'm just going to be happy to get through the bottom. Once I went through my 60 grit sandpaper, I then went back with a 120 and a 220 grit just to make it really smooth. If you ever use an orbital sander, let the sander do the work. Don't push down on it and always keep it moving. This will avoid ring marks on your wood. With a little time, it's definitely coming around, but as you can see, the wood itself really needed a good sand down. It wasn't even just about removing the paint, it was about trying to recondition the wood. I'm going to replace the brackets as well as the hardware, and I'm actually going to make my own door handle for this piece. Once everything was completely sanded and wiped down, I'm going to make a chalk paint mix in Old White, 50% paint, 50% water. What I want to do, as the wood tones are a little bit varying, as well as the wood is not what you'd call the most regal, so this is going to put everything into its own continuity as if it was all a matched wood, as well as mask any imperfections. It will definitely make it a little bit brighter, if not a little bit more of a bleached wood look. And I think it's going to match with the hardware as well as the custom hardware I'm going to make once I pull everything together. When you're doing a chalk paint wash, you're just pretty much going to put it on there. I just try to brush stroke as well as wipe it back with the grain of the wood. You could always apply a chalk paint wash as many times as you like, so I'll normally just start with a thin coat, wipe it back with a lint-free cloth, and if I want it to be a little bit lighter, I'll just go ahead and apply another coat. In a flat matte black, I picked out 3.5-inch door brackets to replace the originals that were there. So to make our own handle, we're going to use the Gorilla Glue epoxy, as well as the machine screw and assembly nut. The assembly nut has a flat edge, so this way we can adhere with the epoxy glue the new hardware that we want to use. So all you're going to do is mix these 2 together, and it actually comes with a lid, so you can use this at another time. We only need it a little tiny bit. You're just going to mix that epoxy glue for a moment and apply your small amount to the assembly nut on the flat surface. And what I want to use is a rock for a handle. Once you've applied the assembly nut to the back, you only need to let it dry for about 5 minutes, and it's pretty sturdy. So let's see what this looks like before and after. I wanted to show how easy it is to use half-inch copper tubing to create some really fun decor. All you're going to need is a copper cutting tool and some simple, easy pieces, and if you don't have the pieces, you can cut them. Copper is a very soft metal, so it is actually very easy to work with. We're going to make 3 candles out of this holder, one at 14 inch, one at 10, and one at 7 inch. We're just going to need some T tubes as well as some 90-degree fitting tubes. These are all 1/2 inch, as well as a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch reducer. It's truly just like putting together Lego. All these pieces, as well as the cuts and the sizes, will be in the description box below. This makes for great home decor. It's inexpensive, it's easy to use, as well as it makes great accents for around your home. And copper is very easy to keep clean. The piece that we're using at the top is called the reducer. It starts as a 1/2 inch, then it actually expands to 3/4 inch, and that's where you'll put your candle in. Using a copper pipe, 1/2 inch, we cut 8 2-inch pieces for this zigzag candle holder. There's also the 4 elbow fittings, there's 3 T fittings, there's also 3 1/2 inch to 3/4 reducers, and 2 copper end caps. So as you can see, the design is laid out, and my husband is just going to fit all the pieces in the exact design that you see here. All of the fittings as well as the sizes will be in the candle holder 2 description box below. So you'll be able to find all these pieces either on Amazon or your local hardware store or Home Depot. There's probably a few different designs you could do with this, so you have some fun with it, really. There's no right and wrong, it's just getting the pieces to match as well as being stabilized. We do recommend, as we're not demonstrating on camera, is to actually glue it with the metal glue or an E6000, so your pieces will adhere nice and tight and it won't be wobbly. Even though the fittings sit really tight and it seems quite snug, it's just to be safe, as well as for the use. Over time it might start to turn a little bit, so this is where it would be recommended to glue it. As part of my living room makeover, I've had this console table for probably close to 5 years now, and I think I originally purchased it on Wayfair. Anyhow, it is MDF with a laminate top, and this is completely manufactured. It's faux. It's not even real. It's not even real wood. It's got that laminate, and I'll show you in the back. I think these are actually made in China. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because it's not something that I can refinish and change the wood, so I'll have to go with a different look by using some chalk paint. As you can see, that laminate has actually chipped off in a couple places. So anyway, it's time for a makeover, and I'm going to work with the wood grain that's falsely put there and see what I can make with some graphite chalk paint, which is a black, but it's kind of more of a really dark gray. Anytime I work with paint onto a piece of furniture, less is best. So you always want to start with a very thin amount. And I generally like to have water, as chalk paint is super thick and moves around so much more freely if you add just a little bit of water. Now I'm not really going for an ultra smooth finish. As you can see, there's a lot of texture on that laminate. So I'm going to work with that and see what I can create just by using the chalk paint, as well as I want to create some highlights and again work with the texture that's currently on this piece. Because chalk paint is so thick, I'm probably only going to need one coat, so I'm still going to stick with very thin and see how it goes, but I may actually even add in a little bit of texture using the brush. Chalk paint also dries very quickly because it's a water-based product, so it's also really advantageous to mist or water your brush just lightly every so often, just to keep the paint moist, and this will also keep it moving and it won't be dry as you're trying to paint. So you'll notice it'll start to clump a little bit as you're moving the paint, so adding that bit of water is super helpful. I'm not sure how they built this particular console table, but you're probably all asking yourselves, why wouldn't I take the drawers out? It's because I couldn't. I don't know why, but I couldn't. It came assembled when I bought it, and I've never really attempted to take the drawers out when I bought it, because I bought it brand new. But I could not take the drawers out, so I've had to pull them out to paint around the frames, but I couldn't actually get inside the frame to paint it, but that's okay. It's just a small little piece. The frames of the drawers are wide enough that even not painting the inside of the frame, I don't think you're going to be able to see that. But I did find it really interesting that I could not take these drawers out. So the first coat dried super quick, usually about 20 minutes, sometimes up to 40 depending on your room temperature. But right now, just with some random brush strokes, I'm just going to go every which way and create a little extra texture on top of my first coat. So it's kind of like a 1.5 coat that I'm applying. I'll probably just let this sit for an hour or two just to completely cure to the piece. But as you can see, all of the original texture that was made with the laminate and all of the chalk paint is now sitting on it. So I think it's time to rehash all of that texture and see what we can create with some white wax. Using a small wax brush, you could also use a lint-free cloth if you don't have a waxing brush. I like to use the lid of the container to help push all of the wax in around my bristles. Then I'm just going to be liberal with it, and I'm going to go all over the piece. Then with a lint-free shop towel, I'm just going to start wiping it back. And this is where I start to play with the wax to do highlights and lowlights to the piece. This is where chalk paint can be a lot of fun. There's so many colors to choose from, and using the white wax can really soften things out. But the important thing is you never have to go out and buy new furniture. You can always update your style to what it is you're doing and your room decors and make everything match the way you want it. So these are some really great options. The main reason I'm being a little bit liberated with the wax is because I really want to get it in the texture. So it's going to sit all in those low points. When I wipe it back, it's going to bring back that dark gray, but all of those enhanced details of the texture are really going to be pronounced. The really fun part too is adding and updating your hardware with something new. So, as part of my living room makeover part 2, there was still plenty to do, including all of the frames of the windows, and the ceiling still needs to get completed. But I recently did my fireplace, and I think I'm going to change it. I love it, but the lighting in the room and the colors are not working as I've looked at it for a little over 4 or 5 days now, and I think it's time to change it. So I'm just going to go ahead and tape up the fireplace. It's an easy fix, and I just thought I would go with something a little bit warmer and a little bit softer, but it is a beautiful color. And I'm going to leave in the description box below the makeover part 1, so if you'd like to follow along, as there is going to be lots of makeovers going on, not just with living room, but with kitchen as well as bathrooms, and I'm really looking forward to a bedroom makeover. I'm using the Benjamin Moore sample size, which is super helpful when you're trying to decide colors that you want to arrange. I'm also using the Regal Ultra Matte Finish. The original color that I started with for the fireplace was the Guilford Green, and I actually love it, but it's the way the lighting is hitting in this room. It's only at certain points that I love it, and other points I don't, so it's okay to change your mind. It actually can be a good thing to experiment and have some fun and see what goes and what doesn't. So I've changed it to the Edgemont Gray, which is kind of a bit of a cream tone to it. Not so much gray, but they call it gray. And I am actually really liking the change. So I'm just going to proceed on, and then I can get into our other makeover ideas for this room. Ceilings can be a huge project, especially for a room size like this. Not only is this the living room, but it also stretches into the dining area as well. So I had started all of the border at the front and a little bit in, but with everything I did last week, I never really got to finishing it. So I'm really thankful for my husband, who's like, nope, no problem, I'm gonna help you finish. So we were able to get this done in one night. Now, I really love the wood, but there's too much, and I've been slowly inching with this house to take out some of the wood on the inside, from wood floors to some wood ceilings to wood frames. It's trying to make the perfect equilibrium to make a balance, and plus I am in here so much now, it would just be nice to refresh it and make a change, so I really want to brighten it up. I guess the other reason I really wanted to change the wood frames is because we recently had all brand new windows put in the home. Something I like to do with my baseboards is, instead of the 3-inch, I like to actually add a little bit more trim color, so I just use the painter's tape, and now I can make 6-inch baseboards around the frame of the room. I'm using the Wickham Gray in Semi-Gloss by Benjamin Moore. So what we'd like to do is anchor the new macrame chair that I recently purchased, and what we're doing is using a stud finder to find the support beam. We decided to use a heavy gauged hook as well as a swivel attachment. This way, when the chair is being hung, the rope itself will not twist. So if you want to sit in any angle, you can turn towards the window, you can swing around, it won't twist on you, it will actually be a swivel. I really wanted to switch another pot that I have that's a plastic for one of my trees using a 3/4 inch rope that I got from the Home Depot a while back. And I have 2 packages at 200 feet, and I really thought that that was going to be more than plenty, but that was not the case. First thing I did was just start my base, and I used the hot glue gun, and I made a nice strong base by gluing all of the wrap about 3-4 times. And then after that I would just use the hot glue gun every so often just to make sure it was tightly secured. It's a very easy process, but what is really important is to make sure that you pull the rope down on each other so you don't have any gaps in between. Now I thought I had enough with the 2 packages of 200 feet, but I was thankful that I had 1/2 inch rope in the same product, but it is a little bit smaller. So what I opt to do is use the thick rope on the bottom, use the smaller gauged rope in the middle, and then go back and use the thicker at the top again. So this is where I'm feeling that it's actually kind of a neat look that it worked out this way, but I'm also feeling that I should maybe consider painting it as well. So for the second pack of the 1/2 inch, I'm going to just go and put that on the top. So again, it's just a little bit thicker on the top and the bottom, but it did give it a really neat look. I wasn't sure at first if I should paint it, but I thought, well, why not digest it, put it within a room, and then think about what you might like to do. So I'm definitely thinking that I should do something more decorative with it. All I've done with the hot glue, just to bring the rim in a little bit closer, is I'm actually just going to glue the rope in on itself and bring it in so you don't see the plastic on the inside. I absolutely love these big rope baskets and jute baskets, but this is definitely a more cost-effective way to create the same look. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and please let me know in the comments below which one your favorite project was. I'm really looking forward to sharing a lot more decorative finishes and DIYs with you soon. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and notification bell. It's going to tell you when I upload my next video. And until then, take care and looking forward to seeing you soon.